I know we are last but not least, but Born to be Wild 3 here, last session of day one. Very exciting to talk about reshaping digital marketing in the metaverse. We have three beauties and I'm the beast. I can live with that. So what does it mean? We're talking about advertising, marketing are shifting towards more experiential and thrilling engagements. We have opportunities for NFTs as a potential economic force, collaborations, and all these things we want to talk about. But before we jump in that, let's introduce our panelists. So let's start with Leslie. Leslie, maybe you can give a little bit of an idea on what CoinFLEX does and your role and aspiration for digital marketing in the metaverse.
Absolutely. Great to be here, Lars. Thanks so much for having us. So CoinFLEX is a crypto derivatives exchange and yield platform. We cater to both passive capital investors and active traders who want to earn and trade crypto with a focus on crypto yield products. My role as CMO is very interesting because as we're talking about today, it's about Web3 marketing. We are a Web3 native brand as a centralized exchange. And as a content creator, myself being a podcaster for Crypto Unstacked, it's been this really interesting journey to understand the evolution of marketing, specifically within the context of Web3. And there's a lot we don't know. And I think that's the point of the conversation today, is to just learn from each other. Marketing is extremely, extremely fascinating. So excited for this discussion today.
Excellent. And you're based out of Dubai, right?
Yes.
So it's just a quick thing before I go on. Is marketing different in Dubai or in the metaverse? There are no more physical geographical locations.
Yeah, I would say it's not really about the region. Of course, there are specific strategies for local marketing. But as it relates to what we're talking about today, Web3, it isn't about where we're based. It's more about just strategically speaking, as a brand navigating within Web3, how are we reaching consumers for our respective platforms?
Excellent. And we'll hear more from you shortly. Let's move over to Katherine. And for everybody, Katherine is recovering from a very well-known virus. Sorry that I'll say that. So that's why you might excuse her slightly more radio voice today. But her brain is on 150% today. So Katherine, you're working with the Tezos ecosystem, TZ APAC. So what's your role and what's Tezos ecosystem's approach to the metaverse?
Yeah, thanks for the kind introduction, Lars. I'll do my best to be in top form. Okay, so I work in the Tezos ecosystem as the head of APAC marketing and operations for TZ APAC, which is the leading Asia adoption entity for the APAC region here, and have been in the crypto space for about 6 years. And it's really exciting to see how blockchain as a space has evolved from just Bitcoin price trends in the media to marketers seriously considering implementing blockchain technology in their marketing strategies, whether it's fan engagement with NFT platforms or even Metaverse experiences for their users. And we're seeing it being applied as we speak. Today in this world, we just had Metaverse Fashion Week, and you can see big brands doing Metaverse fashion shows and celebrities doing concerts in the Metaverse as well. So a very exciting time to explore this topic today, and look forward to sharing my thoughts with all of you.
Excellent. And Katherine and I, just for the interest of everybody, are based out of Singapore. Not that apparently it matters anymore. Okay, and last but not least, we have Jillian from Breeder DAO. So stage is yours for your introduction and how you want to leverage the metaverse.
Yeah, so Breeder DAO is actually, we're a specialist manufacturer of in-game quality assets for blockchain games in the metaverse. So essentially, we generate curated assets that deliver best value at scale for games and guilds. I would say that if I were to explain it in simpler terms, we're kind of similar to like an FMCG. a manufacturer of sorts, but instead of manufacturing retail goods or physical goods, we actually manufacture digital goods for multiple play-to-earn games. Yeah, and how we want to leverage the metaverse. Well, our whole business model is in the metaverse, right? So basically, it's translating something that people are familiar with. Brick and mortar retail is something people know. Large scale manufacturing is something people understand. But now we're coming in to hopefully disrupt the play to earn space and present something new to the market, right? When you talk play to earn, you usually say games or guilds, but we're a new player in the space, and we're hoping to inject some liquidity for both our stakeholders.
Okay, excellent. And Jillian is dialing in from Manila today. So let's move a little bit deeper, right? So when we talk about the evolution of digital marketing, what does it really mean? Where does the landscape stand today? And how do you believe that we can really look at the challenges and opportunities to make marketing work in that Web 3.0? Is it just another channel? Is it just another topic? Or is it just reliving Second Life, that shows my age, all over again? Because virtual beers and press conferences, we had that. It was a fad. Everybody was jumping on it, and then it was gone. So where do we stand today, and how can we make it meaningful? Or are there regulations in the way? Or what do you think really is the biggest opportunity and challenge? Let's focus on that. Leslie.
Yeah, I'll start by highlighting. Sorry?
Enlighten us, please.
Yeah, sure. So I want to start by highlighting one company, and all of us here on this panel definitely know them. They're called Animoca Brands. Prior to Dubai, I was in Hong Kong, so really got to know the team over at Animoca, but they are a mover and shaker, right, in the gaming and NFT industry. The company is valued at somewhere north of $5 billion currently, and they are a large investor in a game called Axie Infinity, which is one of the most popular play-to-earn games that leverages the use of in-game NFTs, that caters largely to the Southeast Asia market, particularly the one that Jillian is in currently, the Philippines. And so these markets, right, the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, are very large markets for NFT consumers. But this is on the consumer level, right? Fostering the individual interest in collecting and using NFTs. And I would argue that gaming, is a primary reason for the adoption of NFTs in Asia. But I think we're going to start to see an uptick in NFT engagement beyond just the individual consumer level to the more commercial brand level. Now, as a company, leveraging NFTs as part of your digital marketing strategy is really an opportunity to revolutionize not only the ways that consumers can engage with your digital content, which is more important than ever, but also how you engage consumers throughout that customer journey, right? And we've seen this adoption or this disruption really historically in the pre-Web 2 era, before the rise of social. Engagement really started in person, right? In the physical world at shops. And the in-person shopper experience was more important than ever, because paper advertising only got you so far. And so the way to do it was to engage your customers in the store. And really, you couldn't do much else, right? You couldn't follow up with them after their in-person experience. And with the rise of social, we saw more engagement points being created really through that customer journey. And in some cases, really drastically changing that consumer behavior, the consumer purchasing behavior altogether. With social, there's really now a way, right, a scalable way outside of the traditional advertising realm for companies to reach and understand their consumers. And so we could really see companies start to tailor to consumer preferences because of the rich data that the internet provided. But now with Web3, what's really interesting is that marketing is about, not just creating more points of engagement with your consumers, but in many cases, redefining the brand's business model altogether. And what this means is particularly the community is the business, and allowing your consumers to own a stake of that business, however you define that to be, is really a key to success here. So that's the broad picture that I would paint in terms of the evolution. I'm sure the others can dive deeper into that.
Thank you very much. I love that. The community is the business. Katherine, is the community the business, and what future do actual businesses still have then?
Yeah, great question, Lars. So in an ecosystem like Tezos, where we are community-led and decentralized, it's definitely community first, community-led always. And the idea of having NFTs as avatars, self-expressions of identity makes it all the more meaningful for each individual contributor to the ecosystem. So it's not about phasing out, replacing big business. It's about how we can both collaborate together, because there's always going to be space for everyone to grow, space for big brands to engage their audiences in the metaverse in a more meaningful way. We're seeing it, for example, it's all it's all about getting feedback in real time and getting all that authentic engagement, which you would probably otherwise would not get in a Web2 platform, right? Like Instagram stories or like articles and things like that. It's very sort of almost like one way. And within the whole NFT realm, and then if you layer on a metaverse element to it, you get to basically like experience very immersive gaming like high fidelity quality environments, which brands are very excited to experiment on.
Okay, fantastic. And we're talking about the opportunities. Maybe one more question before we move over to Jillian then. Because everybody who has been in the crypto related world that's naturally related to what we're discussing today has seen different levels of regulation cutting in one way or the other. Do you think that regulation will be the death or inspiration, or just the guiding post for how marketing can prosper in this ecosystem? Katherine.
Oh, me again. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna put on my access hat because I sit on the board of an industry association for blockchain startups and cryptocurrency startups as well. So it's not a be all and all. Regulators, especially in Singapore, are very progressive, and they definitely want to encourage innovation. It's how do we actually do marketing in a responsible way? So it's really about engaging regulators about how we can best apply blockchain tech that protects consumers and ensure that this is within the guidelines. Even if there's no guidelines and technology law is always evolving, then it's about how do we best shape the guidelines together with industry feedback so that all voices are heard at the table. Okay,
thank you. Let's move over to Jillian. Just anything to add on the possible restrictions or enables of guidelines, or you just directly want to say, hey, yeah, regulatory barriers happen all the time, but actually, let's forget that for a while and look at the opportunities. What's your take?
Yeah, I think similar to what Katherine was saying, at the end of the day, right, regulators' main objective is really to protect the community. And I think every, Web3 enthusiast or crypto enthusiast knows that as much as there's so much opportunity in the space, there's also a lot of, a lot of great opportunities in the space. There's also a lot of opportunity for, potential, to potentially be, encounter people who have, impure intentions, right? To really to take advantage of our community. And so I think regulators is really just there to protect the community. And at the end of the day, right, with Web3 companies, we're all very much focused on ensuring that we're community first, community led, community owned. And so I think rather than go against it, companies in the Web3 space really should work together with regulators to figure out, a happy medium. I think similar to any industry that's new or, really disrupting the space, regulators do come in, and I think it's, expected.
Okay, let's move on maybe from the more fixed black and white regulations to more like the topic of marketers love it when they have a very white canvas and can look into mixing technology, creativity, and create new worlds, right? What's your take on deepening, your engagement with different audiences? Because I think we discussed earlier on, we have more information about audiences than we ever had. So is it for you like, oh God, it's indefinite opportunity, so I'll never be able to really make use of that? Or it's like, wow, I wish I had that when I started in the job, and these are the use cases that really get me excited. Jillian, if you want to continue from where you just ended.
Yeah, no, so I think definitely, the metaverse provides a lot of opportunity to provide new experiences to consumers. And that's very exciting for us as marketers. I think one thing though that at the end of the day, right, I do see the metaverse at this point to be very early. And there's a lot to learn for brands as well on how to properly activate and also how to properly engage consumers in the way that is most natural to them, right? And so we're all still kind of figuring out, how to go about that. I think though, in terms of like the availability of information, I think Web3 is currently, grappling between people taking back control of their data and making sure that they're only sharing data that they want to share, but at the same time being in the blockchain where everything's exposed. So it's really all about balancing as brands how we are able to honor what the community wants in terms of like data protection, at the same time, really maximize the countless opportunities to really learn more about their consumers in the metaverse.
Okay, and I think that sounds a lot like accountability becomes actually even higher for marketers, right? Because everything can be tracked and traced. And if it's community-based, it's very different from the olden days of I'll advertise my way into and out of everything. So Leslie, let's maybe move it then to the perspective of the customers. What do they actually, or the clients, what do they expect? Have the preferences changed and now you're finally able to deliver? Or it's like old wine in new bottles? Leslie.
Yeah, a lot of people in Web3, so this is not original. A lot of people in Web3 are observing this shift from the generalist consumer to one who has more niche interests. And that is translating into the different ways that, traditional brands, even the Adidas, the Nikes, the Fendis of the world, are trying to engage with their consumers. Right. There are those who are loyal to the brands and they'll buy clothes and shoes and whatever, no matter what the brand does, because there is that existing affinity. But there's also a new crop of consumers coming up, especially the younger ones, the Gen Zers, for example, who might not start their consumer journey at the store, right, when they see a product, but instead maybe through an interesting activation, entirely virtual, outside of the physical world. And for whatever reason, that activation is what gets them excited about the brand. And then maybe later on in that journey, they actually buy their first physical item. So that's one observation there. A second one is that people in Web3 just are expecting to be surprised. They want to be engaged in very, very unexpected ways. They want to be delighted by that action of surprise. And that's through NFT drops, right? That's through, it could be a surprise experience that you as a brand curate, that your consumers who hold your NFTs are able to access. That can mean surprising your community with rewards for their participation, right? You are rewarding them for the value that they bring to your platform and to your business. So it's not just a one-way data extraction, right? Which is currently how the Web2 world operates, through these rent-seeking intermediaries. So, for the very first time, I think businesses in their very, very early stages are really trying to figure out how to provide value back to the consumers at every single point, because they know how easy it is to lose people within the community. And, you know, in an ecosystem where community is everything, right? Community is your business. You can't afford to, you know, lose out on that, or else you'll fade away pretty quickly.
So that sounds more like, oh my God, I have so much more to think about and do than just the opportunities that are presented. So do you think the job of a CMO or head of marketing becomes more stressful, Katherine?
Yeah, it does. Because CMOs are required to be data-driven and also creative at the same time, and you're using your left and right brains. And it's not just a traditional marketing role anymore. And then as you're experimenting with new tech, new tools, it's actually really a fascinating time to be in this space, to be a marketer now, today. And alluding to what Leslie was saying about how Gen Z behavior is becoming more digital native. You know, the brands see this, they track trends. And, you know, the fact that we've been in a pandemic for the past 2 years, like it's just accelerated all this mainstream digital adoption, right? Digital behaviors. So you have a lot of industries shutting down, yes, but then you have gaming industries that was booming. The blockchain space was COVID proof. All these industries grew tremendously. So yeah, and then that led to an accelerated evolution of Web3 and metaverses, where people are just more, how do you say this? They have a higher propensity to go online now. It's like, yeah, okay, you know, meeting virtually is cool. It's fine. Kids nowadays just want to hang out in Roblox and just play their games there. Yeah, so it's gonna be a fascinating time for these companies to also play around with the tech, and people in these companies that are embracing blockchain are gonna have a fun time doing it.
One follow-up question on that, because I know one of your previous lives you worked in Sephora, right? What's very driven of people need to go down to the shop and buy stuff. So that duality of digital and physical world, can it be completely separated? I mean, outside of online games, it's very clear, right? It's the online world, that's where it is. But the moment you still need to push physical goods, I can't wear digital underwear, for example, or I shouldn't try to. So how does that work? Is it basically then two streams? Where like online gaming, very straightforward, it's all in the metaverse. And then those that still have to do retail, have to push goods, provide actual services, they are lagging behind because of legacy, or will it all be really emerged and we all will benefit from it?
Yeah, O2O, like online to offline, offline to online experiences, I feel will be integrated as the world continues to open up for travel. So we're seeing this trend in the NFT space because the Tezos ecosystem has a global community of artists, or very, very strong in the NFT vertical. And we have literally like most of our artists are from Asia, actually, which is amazing for the creator economy here. So we're seeing NFT creators that have been minting art online for like 2 years. They're like, time to meet up. Let's do an exhibition, you know? So that's the kind of excitement we're seeing from Discord communities. Like they're like, yay, we're a real person. Okay, and then vice versa, you have these big brands with this big brick and mortar stores like Sephora. They want to go online. They're like, oh my God, we're missing out all these like cool digital native communities, all these new kids on the block, these Gen Zs, and you know, they rather be a DAO contributor than work for my company. Okay, let's like, you know, go after this new like market demand, right? I'm like, yeah, all this new NFT collectors, they're mostly people like my age or younger. And that's driving new market demand for even art Basel exhibitions to like take notice, like, oh my gosh, this trend shaking up the art world like by the billions. I think we should do an exhibition for NFTs and educate the moms and pops. Like literally when we did Art Basel Miami, we had Tezos had an NFT exhibition there. Like I got like boomers coming to me and going like, I didn't know how to do this NFT thing because like otherwise I can't talk to my kids about it. So there's this lovely convergence of, yes, online and offline.
Thank you. You make me feel so old. I'm not a boomer, but I
Sorry.
still feel
No,
old.
I'm sorry if I insulted anyone. I think like a boomer sometimes.
Okay. Thank you. And,
Wait, Lars, on that point, actually, talking about Sephora. So Sephora is known for their loyalty program, right? Like it is a benchmark program that a lot of brands, especially in Web 2, go to and reference to be like, okay, like how can we build, a loyalty program that's just as scalable and just as engaging for shoppers? I actually think that's going to also massively change from the existing versions, like Sephora specifically. It can't just be, when you buy this, you get this much in rewards or credits, 2 times points. It's going to Katherine's point, include a lot of the other activations that they end up doing virtually, right? And so it might be that your participation, not necessarily in the store yet, but through these virtual events, right? Or through offline events elsewhere, that also contributes to your customer value to Sephora. And, would enable you to also access, right, those loyalty rewards and not just, oh, I bought a mascara or something, or I bought a bronzer. Great, that adds to my total like points balance. So it would be interesting to see how they lead on that aspect as well.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And also a shout out to everybody on the other side of the screens. Please put your questions forward for our experts here on the panel. I see already the first questions coming in, and we'll answer them in the next 9 minutes. One question though, quickly for Jillian before we look at the audience questions. Maybe could you share some of your company's recent successful projects or campaigns that really leverage the metaverse? I mean, you're born of the metaverse, so every successful campaign should be a case study.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to speak on the discussion a while ago, I think, first to establish, what ReaderDAO has done. So I think we spoke about how gaming has always, we've been, gaming as a space has always understood in-game assets, right? Whether it's skins, clothes, weapons, that's something that's always been there. But I think the biggest question has always been ownership, right? Wherein even if you spend, money in the game, and as we know, the game industry is so big, in-game transactions are very, very high. You have no way to actually physically own, or rather virtually own, right, your in-game assets. And so I think just how that translates to other brands now, right? We see that brands like Gucci, for example, actually sold, I believe, a Gucci bag on Roblox, far more expensive than how much it costs in real life. And so I think, you see people right now very used to actually putting out a digital persona online, whether it's on Instagram or social media. It's something that people are already used to doing. And so I think pretty soon the question is, it's not so much how do brick and mortar retailers will go into the metaverse, but rather I think there'll be an integration for sure, where people don't see their avatars as separate from themselves, but rather just an extension of themselves. And therefore the assets there, will ultimately not be, it's not anymore a question of physical or virtual, but it's just a different channel altogether that contributes to the total persona. And now speaking about ReaderDAO, just going back to gaming in general. So in the last couple of months that we've launched, we've partnered with over 20 plus partner games and actually 300 guilds over the last 6 months. And I would say that's one of our biggest achievements. And we're also partnered with the biggest personalities in the space. We have advisors like Gabby Dizon, Ryan Wyatt, and Pierce Kicks and all of that. So we're very, very bullish about the space, and we're very eager. We're about to actually launch our token soon. So that's also something very big that we hope people are excited about.
I am, so I'm sure everybody else will be. Let's jump into a quick few questions from the audience. Number one is, what are the first things a company's marketing department needs to learn to stay ahead of the curve? Or somebody else phrased it as, how do you guys suggest what should be the first thought breaker? So how to get started as a marketer that hasn't been exposed or involved in Web Web3 and the Metaverse, and then how to stay ahead of the curve if it's even possible. Who want to try to solve that impossible kind of question?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I think it's really looking at the broad space of creative strategies that can be implemented versus going tactical first, because at the end of the day, attribution is really difficult when you want to start to talk about the Web3 activations that we're talking about with regards to NFTs, everything that has yet to be discussed about the metaverse. And so if you start tactical, you miss out on the big picture of what you can actually be doing to integrate with your existing marketing strategy, as opposed to carving out a whole separate budget just to try out Web3 marketing activities. And so I would start first to figure out what that possible integration would look like, just one. And then eventually, as you experiment, whether it be a thought experiment or you're actually experimenting with dollars, to then go and figure out, right, what would a whole scale strategy that implements, NFTs actually look like? Because at this point in time, nothing is how do you say, proven out, right? You see all these sports marketing activations across a lot of the crypto brands. The fact that people actually ask them the question of, hey, is sports marketing working for you, is an indication that something is working on the brand level. But when you want to talk about conversions, I don't think anyone has a clue whether putting your name on a stadium or sponsoring a team actually is bringing customers down the funnel, right? I talk about that customer journey. That's still being written out right now in terms of how it looks quite differently to one in the Web2 world. So I think it's really to start more creative than tactical, and then through that planning and execution process, obviously bring the tactical aspects into that.
But isn't one of the challenges with Web3 and the metaverse by default, it becomes way more technical compared to other more established traditional marketing channels? And by that, a lot of times it's more like a change of your business model and business than just, it's not a marketing stunt anymore. So anything I want to do there is more of, if I really want to do strategy, it's a business strategy. And then how can marketing leverage that? Or has it always been the way and we've just all misunderstood it all along? Leslie.
So I don't think you need to think about, me as a brand or us as a brand going into, or not going into, but rather leveraging Web3 strategies as a reason to change your business model necessarily, because we know, right, those who are actually, going down this route are not all Web3 native brands. So how can you tell a brand like Nike, for example, to change their business model? It's not very possible to do overnight. So that's why there's this importance, with figuring out what integrations look like with your existing marketing campaigns. How do you broaden out, what you originally thought was the limit, right? And use the creative aspects of NFT drops, for example, to incorporate in, a couple marketing campaigns. And then as you see and figure out what gets proven out, then you start to do more and more. And then maybe somewhere down the line, you are developing a whole internal arm just for Web3 activations. And that, changes your business model in some way. So it's not to say that Web3 marketing strategies need to completely disrupt the business that you've already built. That was more a comment on kind of the early brands who are starting out, like Breeder DAO, for example, starting out in Web3, right? There's no physical store or whatever, and how, for example, marketing as a native brand really, really puts focus on community, because you don't have existing products or services to go off of.
Okay, maybe we have 1 minute left, and I have 2 questions. So maybe with quick answers, one for Jillian and one for Katherine. Number one, very simple question. What are some marketing channels that you guys use or suggest for a successful metaverse project? Jillian, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I would say that in the Web3 space now, Twitter, Discord, are really the main channels to connect to your consumer. But I think at the end of the day, versus the channels, I think it's really how figuring out, for number one, who your community members are. Where they're more susceptible to in terms of communication, and at the end of the day, it's really articulating purpose. I think just leveraging on what taking from what you said a while ago, where people I think have a misconception that blockchain and blockchain companies have to be very technical. I think yes, of course, the technical aspect is important, but at the end of the day, it's also about driving home what your purpose is and communicating it to your, to your believers and to your supporters. I think, and that's very, similar to any traditional business in terms of marketing, right? You have to communicate your purpose and what, solution you're trying to provide to an existing problem in the space. So
thank you. Very last question, and I know our internal clock is already flashing, but in the interest of having Katherine's view on this, if a blockchain-powered metaverse means anonymity, how will it change the typical data-driven approach of marketers? Do we have to rethink funnel? Do we have to rethink conversion? Or it's the same, just in a different color and more bits and bytes?
Yeah, good question. With anonymity, users get to preserve their own privacy, have their own keys on their own in-game metaverse assets, whatnot. So the information will be transparent, it will be on-chain. So it's just a matter of using different tools to explore the data and garner more insights. But yes, user transactions will be a lot more transparent, not just to us, but to everyone else in the community.
Okay, thank you. So then let's wrap it up. Thank you very much. Some things that I learned definitely, Leslie said, brands need to deliver value at every point. So it's a little bit more tricky and pressure is on that one. She also said, the community is the business. I think that's one of the most strong statements that I heard today. The community is the business, full stop. We had Katherine emphasizing community first and mentioned that, NFTs as avatars are a mode of self-expression and some people don't differentiate anymore on that one. And we had Jillian sharing that as a brand, it's not so much what you want, it's need to know more than ever what the community wants to be successful. So thank you very much, Leslie, Katherine, Jillian. I learned a lot. I hope our audience as well. Thank you so much. And I think it's just the start of a conversation because we have at the start of a journey, but at the end of a very impactful day. So thank you very much, ladies. And over to Jonathan to wrap it up for the day. Bye-bye.
bye. Thank you.
Thank you.